Hey, everybody, you're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in. And usually I wouldn't interrupt Steve so quickly there because we'd be presenting our third regular co-host, Mr. Caleb Alexander McKenzie. Unfortunately, Caleb is dealing with a personal matter, and we hope everything works out to the best that it possibly can. We'll see him on the next episode. But sitting here in his stead, old friend, I have to say old friend of the show at this point.
Thank you. It is my birthday month, so thank you.
From A Comic Book Look and Comics by Night, Mr. John Runyon once again joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. And when I got the I Am summons today, I was like, yes! Like, it's my invitation to be part of the Bear Justice League. So I'm like, on it. Let's go.
All right. Well, we'll do our best to be more like the international years and not like Justice League Detroit. And if you're an old-time comic fan, you get the reference. And if you don't, look it up. We're in the era that it's easy for you to do that. I apologize. I just got back home after a work thingy in an office that wasn't my usual office, so I was white knuckling it after a point with the drive that took a lot longer. So I am a little bit out of sorts, but I'll do my best. I will do my best, and I'm sure by the time we hit the books that we're going to talk about, all will be well. Yeah. You guys have Thanksgivings?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Nice.
It was a great time. We stayed home, and it was very nice, just the two of us. So we dodged all that bad, pesky Midwestern weather out here. There's a lot of snow and excitement. So.
Yeah, we were also up in the Midwest. We were in Fort Wayne, Indiana, to visit my brother, and the rest of my immediate family. We all came up, which was pretty cool to get me and both of my brothers together in the same place for the first time, I think in like 6 or 7 years. It's been a while. Wow. But we left literally an hour before the snow started in Fort Wayne, and we made it all the way home without one flake on the car, and It's a good thing that we did because they got 8 inches after we headed home.
Yep.
So no fun.
Usually hearing about 8 inches, you're like, wee, but
no, not these 8 inches. Ugh.
Well, for me, as most people who watch the show or in my orbit know, my other half, Rob, has been out in the Bay Area for 4 months, helping take care of his sister. So he was not home for Thanksgiving, but I was adopted by my friend Vince and had a very good dinner. And on Saturday, I went to Santa Saturday, which is a bear event over in Bucks County, PA. And it's the first time I've been there in about a dozen years.
Oh, wow.
So, really, really happy to do stuff like that again.
Well, that's great.
Really enjoy it.
Well, that's good to hear. You know, and I'm sure you had you got to run into a lot of really cool people that you've known or that you've met over the years, and
yeah, there were
flex those A-list bear muscles there.
Dude, I am so not A-list. I am so not A-list. I would say I'm C at best, but I am graded. I will say that I do have a grade.
There you go.
He says sheepishly. And also, like you said, there's people I haven't seen in a long time. Some people I saw like last week. But, there's a couple of folks that I met that I've known online for years and years. Never met them in person before, and was really happy to do that. Just a fist bump means a lot when it's the actual person there. It's very nice. And cool. As you can tell by the sweater, it's pretty friggin' cold where I am in New Jersey right now.
Oh.
So, yeah, sweater weather.
Sweater weather.
Let's not get on that. We'll be doing imitations till the cows come home. What is the origin of that? Till the cows come home.
That is such a good question. I
Yeah.
have no idea. I guess. I mean, it sounds to me like cows don't usually come unless they want to. Like if you
Yeah.
let them out, they tend to be gone. So I don't know. Maybe if they're hungry or something and there's better
Okay.
grass at home. I don't
Well,
know.
we have a few bits of news that Steve wants to talk about, so he's going to introduce them. And while he's doing that, I'm going to look up what the origin is of when the cows come home.
Well, the biggest piece of news, and we've been kind of talking about it a little bit, and I have to, give my many thanks to Dean Simons over at the Comics Beat, who's been following this like a rabid dog all year, and that is the state of the Angoulême Comics Festival that happens every year in January, and man, it is a sad state. So we know that they've been having all these issues. There was a massive, investigation that was done over the conduct of the group that runs Angoulême, or the commercial group that runs Angoulême, Neuvième Art, and the managing director of it, Frank, I believe it's Bondu. And that came out earlier this year after this year's Angoulême. And so for the entirety of the year, they've been trying, people who attend, the publishing companies, the artists, the writers, it's a big draw for Europe. It's one of the largest comics festivals in the world, have been pushing the organizers to just kick them out. And they attempted to do that. They did a very bad job of attempting to do that. And then they basically put the same organization back in charge of it and just said that Frank was going to he's going to retire or just not be part of it or something. Didn't go over well. And basically every single major publisher at this point and most of the guests boycott. And so they were not going to attend under any circumstances until they fixed their shit, to put it plainly. And they just really haven't. So as of, I guess, yesterday, it is now officially canceled for 2026, and that's pretty unfortunate because obviously the last time there was a cancellation was I believe 2021 around the pandemic. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I know they're trying to put something else in there because this is a major draw for the economy. It's a major draw for the people who work there and who live there, and of course I know a lot of fans look forward to this, whether they're coming from the States, from elsewhere in Europe, but also in France. I mean, this is a huge market for artists and writers and publishers to put their work out, but also, for fans to come and see what they love in European comics and, comics in general. The one good silver lining, I guess, is that if you are a zine fan, if you are an underground comics, independent publishing, like we're talking micro publishing, very, very indie, there is a sort of like a side convention that happens with Angoulême called Future Off. They are still going to go on because they are not like they've always said they've just been kind of like a satellite convention that happens at the same time. It's kind of very underground. It's very cool. It's a, if you know about it, you go kind of situation. But yeah, because they're not involved in the rest of the organization, that actually works out well in their favor, and they're going to go ahead with it too, because it's good for these artists, it's good for these writers. People come and they expect to support them, and now they have a chance. At least if you're a zine publisher or writer, you can still display your wares and get your message out, independent of the comics festival. So hopefully people who are still planning on going to Angoulême will attend that. Maybe it'll be a huge gangbusters crazy year for them. But it's really sad, that it came to this, and yeah. And apparently now Frank Bondu is suing them. He's putting his foot down, saying we're actually supposed to run it until 2027. It's a whole thing. So I mean, there's a potential here that's going to be canceled 2 years in a row if they don't get their shit together for next year. So
all right,
that's too bad.
Big news for and I don't even want to say just our European friends, but there are many people that travel. To shows like that and to Luca. So yeah.
Yeah. And so if you want to follow more on that, Dean Simons over at the Comics Beat has been just pumping these articles out. So definitely a lot to read there. But that's, I think, probably one of the biggest news items. There was another couple things just around, the state of the comics industry and the stores themselves. Some stores have been doing amazing numbers this year, which is pretty cool. A few initiatives that have really drawn that out. I mean, big titles like Absolute Batman have been just selling like hotcakes. Also, the DCKO crossover event is so far has been doing pretty well from anecdotally what people have been saying. And then of course the Ultimate Universe over in Marvel, there's a lot of sales there around the Ultimates and some of the other titles like Ultimate Spider-Man. So there's always the old standbys like the Batmans, the Amazing Spider-Mans that still sell regardless.
It's interesting, some of the speculation since the Ultimate Universe, this second Ultimate Universe is coming to an end, that there is some speculation that come next summer there will actually be a Marvel Universe reboot. And I think normally I wouldn't be like, you're crazy. But I kind of like the timing does seem suspect, especially given the sales of the Ultimate line.
Yeah.
Even a middling book like Ultimate Black Panther, I think most regular MCU titles would be happy with those numbers. So it is a little interesting. It's somewhat interesting. And you know what? Marvel, I could handle it. I'd be okay with it. We've had this for this long. It's not like those stories go away. And I'd be interested to see if they did have a line-wide reboot, where things would fall. I'm almost certain it would look more like the cinematic universe. I'm almost certain of that.
Probably.
But DC's had like 17 of them already. So maybe it's time for Marvel to dip their toes into that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I think they have tried doing sort of like line-wide reinventions and reboots before.
Yeah, but not really full reboots of continuity. I mean, it's yes, Amazing Spider-Man had a substantial reboot of continuity, but and I think, Steve, what you're talking about for the most part, has been tone of a line. And not necessarily putting past history into a blender and making a new drink out of it.
Right. And I think also one of the big things that they tend to struggle with is the fact that X-Men kind of gets left out sometimes of some of these sort of like big, let's say, core Avengers non-X characters like Spider-Man, the Daredevil, that whole section of the Marvel universe. They tend to kind of do things a little bit separately, even though you have X-Men that end up on the mainstream teams as well, and it gets kind of confusing, I think.
I also think that when they have incorporated X-Men with the notable distinction of AVX, some of them have kind of been duds, like whether it's Axis,
Sixus,
Sixus is what we call it, or IVX,
IVX.
It does seem that when you do involve the X-Men, I mean, it seems the only ones that had like some teeth that were aligned to the greater universe in full are like House of M.
House of M.
Onslaught to some degree. But plenty of duds in the mix there too.
True. And the interesting thing about House of M and Onslaught is that there seems to be a lot of around those. It was a push kind of initiated from the mutant side of things. And that because
at least story wise,
for sure. Like everybody loves a mutant cause for end of the world kind of situation. And so you either have Black Widow or you have the psychic baby of Charles Xavier and Magneto. But it's there's some potential here for some really cool stories and some really cool just smoothing out of continuity. And when you've got characters that go back to World War II, I mean, that's 80 years ago now. And they keep having to revise when they've pulled Steve Rogers
Yeah.
out of the ice and when the Fantastic Four make their
and
their
the
space
Fantastic
flights, so.
Four is the greatest example of that, because first Reed and Ben fought in World War II, and then it was Korea, and then it was Vietnam, and then it was the Gulf War. So that goalpost keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people. I loved Bendis's all new X-Men when the young X-Men crew, the original 5 X-Men, came to the future.
There was nothing like a young Jean freak out in those.
Oh fuck yeah! the whole crossover they had with Guardians of the Galaxy, where the Shi'ar Empire put young Jean Grey on trial.
Vortex.
The Black Vortex series.
Yeah, that was good.
And then they all got like weird powers for a little while and all sorts of cool stuff. I loved all of that. And essentially it would have created a massive, change to the whole status quo of the X-Men period. But of course they went back in time and they erased everybody's memory. So but that got kind of overturned with Miss Marvel this summer. So yeah.
And also, just given the upcoming Avengers films, that's not such a bad time to enact something like this. So,
well, I mean, Doomsday and Secret Wars, I mean, that's exactly, if they follow, what they've been hinting at is the incursions and all that stuff coming in and just flipping everything into a new non-multiverse universe that smushes everything. I mean, that's kind of a perfect time to restart a lot of storylines and hopefully get some readers in the door, which apparently there are younger readers that are coming in, which is surprising to a lot of people. And I think some of it obviously is manga. Like manga is always big and has a big draw to a young audience.
There are some things like the Superman trade sales are very robust for things like and some of them that are I don't want to say all ages book, but they're younger reader friendly, like Superman versus the KKK. So Steve, it's John. I want to talk to John. Do you have any thoughts about a possible Marvel reboot?
Well, okay, a couple. So first, my first thought was I had this one event on my brain, but I wanted to make sure I had the name correct, so that's why my screen lit up because I could Google it and cheat. But Operation Galactic Storm from 1992, spanning X-Men, Avengers, Captain America, Wonder Man titles, things like that, premiering the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. I geek out about teams in the Marvel Universe, so you know me, I love to hit the books and research. And I got this whole storyline while I was working at the comic shop here a couple years ago and just cracked into it. And like how completely amazing Warstar was, the big green guy on the Imperial Guard that shoots the little guy out of his back. And how each member of the Imperial Guard just laid waste to teams of Avengers, right? And then we see them just get mowed over. Well, actually, no, they schooled the X-Men in the 90s cartoon, too, for the first match. But, it's just so funny when they debut a new character and how BA it is, and then, just, wipes out the whole Avengers team, and then the next go with the team, then the Avengers win, of course. But I like things like that. This period and these titles, these events in the 90s that intersected with the most random titles ever. And I'm also thinking about my Rise of the Midnight Suns, because I'm a geek with that stuff.
Right.
And just how it pulls in things and just makes it so fun. In my opinion, it's also a financial nightmare and a space nightmare, don't get me wrong. But it's very endearing. And that's the kind of Marvel charm that I would like to see come back to more events. And not even just X-Men specific, but in general. Just really having fun with it, and telling a neat storyline, just something new, something fresh. That's what I'm looking for. In terms of the reboot, I guess my fear of it is I'm a continuity junkie, and so I love it when all of my comics matter, even Dark Avengers. And shout out to Dark Reign, best event ever.
What did I miss with this Dark Avengers commentary?
Did you read it?
Like back in the day,
like 2008,
like
is it 2008, something
like the Thunderbolts as bad Avengers.
Yeah,
it wasn't great.
It was amazing. Oh man. I have the poster right here
I
looking
don't
at me.
know.
You just broke John's heart there.
Yeah.
I especially did like the Carla as the Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
I liked her.
Yeah. But the thing I liked about the Dark
Which
Reign
was
model,
going on, yeah.
it pulled me back into comics. First of all, so that's why it's near and dear to my heart. But second of all, each one of these Dark Avengers got their own solo title, like limited run series, which I thought was hilarious. Like Sinister Spider-Man was great. And Matt Gargan getting his own 5-issue run with amazing artwork in it. It was brilliant. And you know, Miss Marvel, the real one, Carol Danvers getting thrown through a plane turbine by Carla was fantastic. Like, oh, chef's kiss. And I don't know, like every single Avenger just had their own quirky moment. Bullseye as Hawkeye, oh, that run was a lot of fun. And then of course Dark Wolverine, we know how we feel about that. But yeah, it was a great time, and like I said, it's what got me back into comics in the first place. That's how Tom and I first started talking, and how we got Comic Book Love going. So.
Okay, so when we're talking Dark Wolverine, how do you pronounce it? Dakin or Dakin?
So I say Dakin, but that's just because that's how the A typically goes in, like, you know, Japanese names, I think. So
I tend to say Dakin, but it also makes me think of that like shitty 80s band.
Oh, sure.
Shitty 80s band. I'm going to say that like Mike Lovins and I had a great conversation.
I was a new wave.
So the one question I had for you guys, and from your perspective, is regarding universe reboots. What are some of the things that really stand out to you that make it successful, I guess?
Well, you know, I always go back to Crisis, because Crisis was when I started getting back into comics after being away for 4 years. And I was very lucky that the first issue I read was 2. I was still able to get 1 at a shop, and I was kind of on the ground floor with that. But I'm still coming back to the characters that I was used to. Yeah, there were new names, like, you know, the new Teen Titans and Amethyst or whoever. But it was that was kind of cool in that it was still a recognizable universe to me, but the change was in progress. I do wish that the kickoff of the universe that it led to was a little cleaner. You know, it took Batman a couple of months to get to year 1. It took Superman. Like, some of the weirdest comics you'll ever read are the post-crisis Superman before Man of Steel. There's some weird shit in there. DC Comics Presents, they didn't know what to do with that title. You know, they didn't know who mattered and whatever. You know, it's like Superman meets the main Crisis characters, but Clark Kent is still like on TV, and there's like in that issue, Lady Quark is deliberately drawn like Annie Lennox. There's some weird shit in this like 6-7 months that where it goes there. But I think I like the possibilities. I like that we don't know what's up next. And, you know, I don't think, you know, that New 52 was successful across the board in any way. But I did like that sense of when you were opening that first issue and like, what's different, you know?
Yeah.
And it comes down to execution, and, well, 2 things. It comes down to execution and commitment to it. And commitment of that this is a new status quo. And I think that's hard to keep, especially when you have, you know, in some cases 82 years of continuity.
Yeah,
but
I think that's
I like the novelty of discovering what's slightly different, what's, you know, incredibly different. You know, there's nothing that really compares to that.
Yeah, I actually, it was funny that you kind of got back into comics with Crisis. I actually got back into comics with the New 52. It was my impetus to start reading like superhero comics before, because, like, you know, when I stopped reading comics, I went the total, like, you know, artsy fartsy kid and would only read autobiographical graphic novels. some of which we'll be talking about today. But for a long time, it was just that. It was poetic stuff. It was, art experimentation. That was what I was reading for comics, which, again, valid and wonderful, but it's not something that you would see or that you normally expect to see in DC and Marvel. And there's such huge storytelling powerhouses that it's kind of hard, to come back to that, kind of like when you have watched a soap opera when you were a kid and you try to get back into it 20, 30 years later. It's like, well, my mom's not here to tell me who everybody is, so I don't really know what's going on, and I'm just whatever. But with New
I have
52,
a great once you're done with that, I have a great story about that.
Yes.
Great story.
But with New 52, I mean, you had that opportunity. I could just pick titles for, concepts or characters that I remember liking or was interested in reading, and be able to pick up and start at day one, essentially with all the rebooted titles. Now, obviously some characters kept some history and kept some continuity that, made it a little bit rocky as they went on. So like Batman and Superman, and depending on which Superman series you were reading, like it was either 5 years ago or it's today, and there were some things that were here and there. But I got to get on the ground floor with Green Lantern, which didn't have a huge change with the reboot, but still gave you a brand new starting point. I was reading Supergirl, Swamp Thing, Animal Man, just characters that hadn't really had a spotlight for a while were getting a new spotlight again. I mean, Amethyst had her own series for 8 issues, which was pretty cool. So, you got to see a lot and get in on the ground floor again. And they kept it going for several years before they, mushed it all back together and started over with Rebirth. Mm-hmm. So, it gave you plenty of time to get into it, to find what you liked and continue with it or find something else. And I thought that was pretty successful. And it was financially successful for the first couple of years for sure. Yeah. So,
okay.
But yeah.
But just for your soap opera story, I have a really cool story involving my parents. When I was born, it was around the same time as a character was born on As the World Turns. And the last few months, my mother loved Dark Shadows, and she and her friends at work would, since the show aired kind of late, like 4:30 p.m., they would clock off at like 4 and stick around and watch Dark Shadows at the hospital. But she never watched the other stuff because she was working, and when she was on bed rest before I was born, she got into As the World Turns, and my father was home as well many times. And there was a character that was born around the same time as I was, like just before I was, in 1967. They both had like a terrible cold, the terrible head colds in 1984. So, at that point, I'm, 16 years old or so. Yeah, about that, 16 years old. And that same character on As the World Turns was about 35. He had been in jail. He was lost in the Congo at some point and then returned. But the return guy was an imposter that had plastic surgery to make him look like, and just like this, he was like blackmailing his own mother, and it was like all this crazy shit. And I'm like, and here's me, like, barely able to like wipe my ass, at 14. So those soap opera characters, they do grow up really fast.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, I mean, it's like comic books. It really is. It's comic books without the superpowers, and sometimes with superpowers, because there's always a storyline where somebody's finds out that they're psychic and can see the future, or they're telepathic, or like what happened in General Hospital, getting abducted by aliens and can see through walls. So it's just
apparently Guiding Light went through a very big sci-fi phase too.
Oh yeah,
at some point.
I've heard of these. It's comic books. It's comic books for people who swear up and down that comic books are too silly.
Yeah.
And
they have reboots. They have continuity changes.
Constantly. And they even announce them sometimes at the beginning of the episode. The part of so-and-so will be played by this new actor, and you just have to get used to the new costume, the new look, and the new age. The 6-year-old from last season is now, 24 and going to college.
I forgot what show it was, but apparently, like, the continuity got so confused. Like, at some point, they were like dating their own like half brother, and like nobody caught it for like a 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
But hey, that becomes a new story on its own. Like, that can become an even crazier story for the writers, to dig into.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm dating my own brother.
So Steve has another bit of news, and initially I was coming down on him to say, no, this isn't comic books. But God knows there are so many times where Caleb and I go off on the football tangent that it's only fair. So Steve, tell us about the other bit of news that you were very excited about.
Well, I was really, really excited to hear about, and there is a comic book connection. I looked it up. There is a comic book connection. Brian Fuller, showrunner from a lot of different TV series out there that you may know and love, has announced that they have gotten the cast back together and they are working on a 3rd season of one of my favorite shows of all time, Pushing Daisies. And so it potentially could be coming back for next year if all continues well. Now, the comic book connection here is that in 2007, they promoted the Pushing Daisies show's, I think, initial season by putting out a comic book for San Diego Comic-Con that was a special promotional giveaway for attendees for, I believe, the Pushing Daisies panel. So yes, if you have this comic book, be aware that the stories are going to potentially be continuing next year, just in TV form.
and also the notion of the San Diego Comic-Con promotional comic that works into something later on this show as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Could that be
kind of cool? All right. Well, I think there is no discernible reason why we shouldn't go over to our round table of new comics, and we're going to be very gracious to our guest and allow him to go first. So, John, tell us about a book you're reading that you're enjoying.
Yes, absolutely. So, first of all, just to you guys and to the viewers, your boy is very much behind. My comic shop is 3.5 hours from where I live, but I'm going to be getting my next stack from when I go down for the holidays. It's in Lincoln, Nebraska. Also Rainbow Comics. It's just the store that's close to where my folks live. So it works out actually really well because then I get to go see mom and dad and hit the comic shop. So it's a lot of fun. But my first book that I chose is, of course, Marvel and magical and just overall geeky greatness, and that is the Strange Tales, #1 that just released about a couple months ago, because I saw at the end of this issue that there's already an issue 2 that is probably waiting for me, and I'm very excited about that. Strange Tales is just kind of a fun nod to the previous volume of this, if you can call it that, that also houses all sorts of fun Marvel randomness, not just magical, but all sorts of mythical things. I have several of them downstairs in my comic book keep for Comics by Night. I have not read a single one of them, so I have no street cred with the history of the title, except for that I own them. But I am looking forward to digging into them. So this caught my eye because, of course, it's Strange Tales, and 2, because Scarlet Witch and Nico from the Runaways are on the cover, which is an interesting character pull that I just don't see too terribly often. At first, I thought that this would be kind of a series of, different short stories or whatever. It's actually just one tale throughout the book, containing notes of Dungeons and Dragons, which I also am an avid fan of, so you can imagine how I feel about that. But when you're pairing Nico from the Runaways, Wiccan, which is the son of Scarlet Witch or Wanda Maximoff, as well as his boyfriend, Teddy. And then the fact that Nico is dating Carolina from the Runaways is really cute and fun. And so for Halloween, the boys invited the girls over. Hey, stay off the streets. It's not safe. So come over here. We'll play D&D together and hang out, is the premise of it. And then the game goes horribly wrong. The Scarlet Witch comes through and kind of saves the day and figures it out. The antagonist for this one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. And I was like, that's random and kind of just a pull from, like, when you have those villains that are like C tier or D tier kind of. And it ended up being Nightmare, the character that had a 2-issue limited run, I believe, I have those downstairs as well. And he's kind of like a Loki character or a Halloween Jack if you've
Oh,
read
it's not.
X-Men 2099.
Oh, okay. I thought Nightmare was like the fake Spawn.
So he is.
That's a different Nightmare. Okay.
Yeah, like he looks a little bit like that, but
Okay.
this is
Oh,
like
is it the Sleepwalker Nightmare? Didn't Nightmare
yes,
appear in
yep,
Sleepwalker?
yep,
Yeah,
yes, yep.
way
Okay.
back,
Because
way
there's
back.
like a Nightmare with a K.
Oh, sure,
Oh.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
and
Yeah.
that was like, that was so Spawn. It was like stupid.
Yeah. But I will say the highlight of the book for me for this is one, it's a little different from what I prefer. I like the old stuff. You guys know that. I love hitting the tomes, blowing the dust off. I can't wait to read the first appearance of Darkhold coming up. I'm such a dork. But I will say that this is meant for newer readers to the MCU, maybe, or also just reintroducing some older untapped characters that aren't used as much, and I appreciate that. But what I do like is seeing that street level magic user, from the Runaways interacting with the Scarlet Witch, who's a huge deal. I think that's really cool. Seeing Wiccan in the mix, but taken out right away is really cool. But it just makes me really excited for the mystical side of books to come. And I know Wiccan just dropped the first of 4 issues or something this week on the shelf, so that's waiting for me in my pull box. And I'm really excited. Shout out to Agatha all along, by the way. I adore that show. Also, Bill, I mentioned Jersey earlier when we weren't filming, and I also want to go to Salem really bad. So, yeah.
I've never gone to Salem either, and I probably would have a really good time. That would be cool.
It can get really crowded in October.
But ultimately, issue 2 is out. It does link up Spider-Gwen and Doctor Strange in issue 2, so it's a continuation of this story. If you guys aren't checking this out, you saw this on the shelves, and you're curious about it, give it a try. It's good fun. It's easy and approachable. For me, I'm always looking for how does this connect to this and why does this matter, but I need to read all the source material first before I can really get into that. So I'm looking forward to that, but highly recommend it. It really is a lot of fun. And I also just want to give a shout out to the line of Funko Pops that dropped with the Strange Tales header on the boxes, including oh gosh, they had like Dormammu in that collection and Morbius. Oh man, yeah, it was good. Yeah. So,
cool. Oh, that's fun. Who was actually who wrote that issue? Is it the same? Team? Is it the same creative team for the whole series, or is it just like is it change up every?
So I just have issue 1, so I couldn't tell you. I'm assuming it's going to be the same though, based on the preview art. But writer Jeremy Whitley. On the arts, it's Bailey Underwood. Colors Jim Campbell, and then letters Joe Caramagna.
Awesome, and Jeremy Whitley, yeah, or Whiteley or Whitley. Oh, I can never remember how to pronounce his name. But yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Sounds like a good team on that book. So.
And I did get 3 different covers because I adore them. So.
Yeah. Mr. Variance over here.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about a book from the other one of the big 2. But before I do, I was neglectful, and let me fill you in on the meaning behind "till the cows come home."
Oh.
So the term "until the cows come home," sometimes written as "till the cows come home," means for a long, indefinite period of time. Cows returning home to their milk sheds at night do so at a slow, plodding pace after a whole day on the pasture, and the cow's languid pace and lethargy add to the sense that the day has been long.
Aha, there we go.
That is a decidedly unsexy answer behind an idiom that we use very often.
I mean, a sexy answer might be kind of scary.
That is true. Yeah, that is very, very true.
Shout out to all those special fetishists and furries out there.
Okay. So for the book that I want to talk about, a few episodes back, and I do think this was the comic of the year, which was Titans Annual 2025, which covered the convoluted but sort of distilled and nice now back history of Donna Troy in a really powerful emotional issue. So I decided, John, I'm very much like you. I'm so far behind, particularly in the all-in books, that I'm trying to come up to speed. And over the weekend, I decided, let me get some of the annuals out of the way. And the book I want to talk about is Nightwing Annual 2025, issue 1, bannered here as Sins of the Past.
Hmm.
And an interesting thing about this book is Nightwing isn't in it. There ain't no Nightwing. There's like, he's there in like 2 panels and not even an active participant in the story. But it is intrinsic to the action that's currently going on in the book. So it's written by Dan Waters, who is the new regular writer, had a very unenviable task of following Tom Taylor on that title. And the artist is Francesco Francavilla, who, is very much known for horror and pulp era stories. I'd say probably his most high hope profile gig has been Afterlife with Archie. That probably is, there's some other cool stuff in the mix, like Zorro and Black Beetle and that weird Captain America Black Widow team up that went on for like issue after issue after issue. So his choice is a little strange because this is decidedly is not pulpy. It decidedly is not horror until you get to a few pages in and you think, hey, this is one creepy, scary story. So where are we with Nightwing Sins of the Past? In the book, in Nightwing right now, there's been this presence of the Zin and the Circus of Sin. And the notion behind the Circus of Sin is that they are anti-superheroes because the sense of wonder that superheroes instill in society once was the domain of the circus performer. And I think that's pretty interesting take on a cultural element like that. And Steve, if you want to go through some of the panels here, if you're familiar with the Batman the Animated Series lore, the comic book Batman, a kind of pulpish analog in that universe, is the Gray Ghost, and stunt casting of all time, Adam West voiced the Gray Ghost on the series. And we start here, it just banners long ago, with scenes reminiscent of the comic book scare of the 1950s. And there is a grandstanding attorney who is trying to get comic books banned. Now, everything old is new again, and we're in a very strange world where books that should not be banned are getting banned for the most inane reasons. So unfortunately, that is one cyclical thing that is happening in our society that should have been ancient history, and it's kind of current again. So and that in itself was a very nice meta touch through the story. Steve, if you can go to the next graphic, and I'm going to for the benefit of the people who are experiencing our podcast as an audio podcast, I'll do my best to show what we're talking about. We reached the end of an issue of the Gray Ghost and his sidekick Wonder Boy, which is a pretty interesting name, and I think that's the first time we've seen Wonder Boy mentioned as part of that as part of that continuity. And we see sharks snapping at a bounding Wonder Boy being held aloft over water. Will Wonder Boy escape? Can Grey Ghost find him in time? Is this the ghastly end of our dynamic duo? One hint, the worst is yet to come. So yeah, like an ending of a cliffhanger episode of Batman 66. Beautifully done. But where are we in Nightwing's world, in his specific sub-city of Gotham, Bludhaven? Well, it's a death trap. And the graphic we have here is, I don't want to say the villain, but the antagonist, let's put it that way at this point, Olivia Pierce. And Olivia Pierce is a bit of a mystery. And who is going to solve that mystery but everyone's favorite DCU lesbian police commissioner, Maggie Sawyer, originally a character in the Superman universe, has spent a lot of time in Gotham with Gotham characters, and right now she is the commissioner, the commissioner of police in Bludhaven. And the mystery that's hanging over Olivia Pierce is she is the president and main financial backer of this organization that has gradually gotten a foothold in Bludhaven politics and Bludhaven culture. The name is Spheric Solutions. And when Maggie gets onto the tail of this Olivia, he finds, hey, this is a made-up name. This is one of the situations where there was a dead baby and all of a sudden this person is alive. And we go through not just Olivia's backstory, which is connected to the comic book scare, and with her connections to the Zanny and a couple of other weird things that go through. Stories involving comic books and comic book creators, but it also shows that hey, Maggie Sawyer, there's a reason she always has a leadership position no matter what police department she is part of. And with the Cirque du Sin, this wasn't the only situation. They didn't come out of nowhere, and we have flashbacks involving people that excuse me, that Olivia brought into her weird, twisted world, who did not come willingly. We understand some of the motivations behind what happened to her, how she ended up where she is. She's still a big enigma, but we have the launch point for what is going to be, a fairly decent length storyline in Nightwing. I looked at some of the recent issues. Nightwing there's a lot going on. There's a Nightwing Prime, which through a very convoluted origin story is this young kid who all of a sudden has the powers of the original Nightwing, which was a Kryptonian. And Dick's dealing with a lot with all the weirdness going on with the Titans and their their headquarters basically being possessed, but it's all leading into a confrontation with the Zin and with Cirque du Sin. And in the midst of all this still operates as a done-in-one story. It sets up it sets up the springboard, but it still is a very satisfying read from page 1 to page 38. And you could do worse than Nightwing Annual 2025 Sins of the Past. That's my first book.
I mean, it just it's always kind of an interesting choice when for like a standard issue, for like a standard regular issue, for them to focus on somebody besides the main character or the title character. Yeah. But for an annual, it's a little bit different. I mean, usually, I'm used to when I read an annual story that maybe other characters get a spotlight in the backups.
Yeah.
But the primary is usually like, here's an adventure for for the main character of this book that we couldn't figure out a place to put. So now we're putting it in the annual. But this just sounds like, Dick's just kind of in the periphery.
Yeah.
But this is setting everything up that he will be dealing with. So that's an interesting tactic to take.
And it's also nice to see Maggie Sawyer again, because she's been underutilized in the last few years. And in a role that makes perfect sense. Especially with all the shit going on in Gotham. That she would be kind of close to the fire, but not exactly sticking her feet. Yes, Vandal Savage right now I am not happy with that development. Vandal Savage is my favorite villain because I think he's the closest to a Dr. Doom for DC in
Mhm.
that he can be anybody's enemy. I guess Ra's al Ghul can kind of be that as well, Dark Side, of course, but I like that because of the time element, that he can be an enemy to Jonah Hex, he can be an enemy to Legion of Superheroes
Mhm.
because he is immortal. And I think he's, as a career counselor, I would say, maybe like become a despot of, a Midland sized country and not Gotham, so,
Well,
and have
anyway, we also
check. Yeah.
Yay, it
have
is
James
James
Figueredo saying hello, good evening, my handsome friends. Hey,
Yeah.
John. And yes,
So,
does agree with you about Maggie. Maggie's amazing, by the way.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, James.
And Waters has Maggie's voice down perfectly.
That's cool.
Perfectly.
I
And
had
and the other thing I have to say, I think you have like one or two more images, if you can just revert back to them. Just one thing I wanted to point out is that Francesco Francavilla also did the colors, and they basically like as the storyline progresses, there's a dominant color on each of the pages, and it works to striking effect. And that really, really, really focused artwork, really good.
Let's see if I can bring it up real quick again. Yeah, so
so you see here with those pale blue.
yeah.
And then
The flashback is all black and white except for the comic
the
book,
color,
which I thought was very cool.
color, yeah.
And then of course, yeah, the blues with the blues and the pinks with
Yep.
Maggie and Olivia.
But even we're still going here. That's I mentioned that the Titans Tower is possessed right now, so that's what Titans Tower looks like, and that's a whole other thing going on.
Just a regular view in the city, just a giant screaming flesh mass of screaming something.
And poor Bitewing, which is Dick's dog, is in the tower and he's transformed in there. But the one thing is he actually can talk to Nightwing right now, at least for a little while.
Ruh-roh, Reggie.
Yeah.
Right ring.
So
I had a really random question on that last image that we had pulled up. So having now made a comic and doing the lettering, I was actually just curious about the choice of font used for a long time ago on the flashback page, and then the Bludhaven font on the page that showed the TE tower and infested. I was just curious, like, if that font is prevalent later in the book and somehow ties in.
Yes.
I just wanted to understand.
Yes, and prevalent during different time periods.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe tying it back somehow.
Yeah. But the main thing I wanted to put across is, I know like putting another book on your pull list is, sometimes it's not financially feasible, but I do think, having a morsel like an annual that will be satisfying is something you should point out. So.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I know John has another Marvel book, and we always spotlight the big two books first, but I'll leave it up to John. Do you want to talk about your book next, or do you want to let Steve talk about his Indie Schmindy book?
Ooh, well, I definitely want to give Steve his flowers on the show. He's working so hard with those images, so yeah. I think that
there we go.
The spotlight.
Aren't you feeling good, Steve?
Now I have the flowers. So, I mean, my book is an indie, but I mean, it's your definition of indie here is Dark Horse.
Indie. It's Dark Horse.
Yeah. So, but it is, the thing is, it is one of the non-licensed titles. It's a brand new title from Dark Horse, and actually specifically out of the Flux House sublabel, which the Flux House books are usually larger format. So they're more magazine size, with additional pages, no ads in the interior, which is great and always wonderful. But in this case, this book that I'm going to be talking about is Space Scouts by Matt Kint and David Rubin, who last worked together on the Ether series. There were a series of minis about Ether, and just the look of this. I mean, David Rubin, so beautiful. The colors, he's doing the colors, the lettering, the art, all of that. And it is gorgeous. It's just, it's bright. It exciting. It's dynamic. There's a lot of, sort of references for animation. So you could see something like this being on maybe Cartoon Network or whatever. But it is gorgeous. But this series, and Bill, I think this would be one of your new favorites for this year.
Really?
If you give it a chance. And I'll tell you why. So Space Scouts is about a young woman named Ember who's on this planet that's the ass end of the galaxy. It is way out in the boonies, the last planet on the space highway, so to speak. And every year, the Galactic Council sends out invites to special young people that exhibit some kind of, genetic anomaly that gives them superpowers, and invites them to come to the Galactic Heart to compete, to be part of the Space Scouts, which is a universe-wide collection of superpowered young people that defend the galaxy against threats to the United Planets, which sounds very similar to a long-running wonderful favorite I know of Bill's and of a lot of people, a lot of listeners, the Legion superheroes. So this is a little bit different, but it has a lot of the same highlights, a lot of the same touchstones here. The artwork is, as I mentioned, gorgeous. David Rubin has the opportunity to play around with creatures, animals, architecture, clothing, lighting, because we're looking at different planets. We're looking at many different species. This planet, Ember's planet, looks dusty, dry. It kind of looks like Tatooine a little bit, a little bit of Tatooine, a little bit maybe, American Southwest. But she has been chosen, and she's the narrator here. She doesn't have a lot of confidence in her ability to go very far, and she doesn't want to disappoint her family, and especially not her whole planet has put their hopes on her succeeding. And of course, the prize is wonderful. Out of 1,000 people, one person can join the Space Scouts, and basically that planet gets the benefit. So they get money, they get additional support from the government. There's just basically you can come back a princess, is what she says at one point, and her family would be treated like royalty. So there's a lot riding on this one, especially in where she lives. It's just very stricken by poverty and not a lot of opportunities. But of course, she's very pessimistic, and that pessimism follows her, throughout the first part of the book. I have to say, how they set things up in this. There is a plan at play when she and the other 999 contestants are all introduced to the selection process. So they have races, they have physical demands and physical competitions that they have to do, and then the final 100, they're put through all these other intellectual tests and emotional tests. And she discovers early on, and I think as the reader you get clues, that someone's putting the thumb on the scale for her. Someone's helping push her through. And there's a hint that it might be some of the original Space Scouts see something in her that could maybe change the game. And we're not really sure. I mean, there's an element here where, people are treating these Space Scout initiates almost like characters on Love Island. They have followers, they have social media, and supporters, people that give them likes, or don't follow them if they don't like them. And that kind of plays into it. They're constantly on camera, they're constantly being scored for the galactic public, very obviously. But there's something that she's got that they want, and so she tends to go through. And even in sort of the final test, or the second to final test, she realizes that she does have more power here than she thought, and she actually chooses the final 10 contestants for the last test, which will take place in book 2. It is a 3-issue miniseries. It comes out bi-monthly, so the next issue will be on the stands December 17th. But it is such a great story. The characters that get introduced, they're all, super powered individuals that have different, alien looks to them and all of that stuff. She's introduced very early on to a speedster whose name, of course, is Hermes. There's another thing that I think that Bill really loves, and I know a lot of people do. There's dossier pages in the back for each of the characters. Well, not all the characters, but some of the main characters that you encounter, including.
You sold me.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
what's really great.
Hot moo.
What's really great about some of these characters. So here's one. This is Adreno, who comes from a species that has like severely underdeveloped adrenal glands, so they are super daredevils trying to feel something, but his adrenaline, when he does get it pumping, make him stronger and bigger.
Is that a Giffen era smirk or what?
Absolutely. And his boyfriend, canonically according to the dossier,
was my boyfriend.
Is Bro, who is also dumb as rocks, but they get along great. But you have other characters too. They even highlight some of the original, the original Space Scouts, the ones who started it, and they have a tragic backstory that's hinted at as well. So you have some of that comes through in the pages on the dossier. You see what they were when they were young and idealistic, and now that they're old and kind of cynical, and even some characters that have this really insane backstory that only get maybe 3 lines of dialogue. But it's great. So it's wonderful. And
you mentioned about the upcoming series. So is this kind of almost like a 0 issue?
No, this is only it's a mini series. It's 3 issues. This is issue number 1. And it will be released. I want to say it's bi-monthly. So this one came out.
Okay. I misheard you. Made it sound like after this there was a 3-issue series. Yeah, no, that looks kind of cool. It looks like Legion of Superheroes on mescaline.
That's a great way of describing it.
That looks very cool. And also, I'm not somebody who has read all of Kent's stuff, but certainly loved Mind Management, and it looks like, or somebody I know calls it Mind Megabit.
Mind Megabit, yeah.
Mind
MDMA.
Mind Management in a while, so. Yeah, it might have sold me maybe on the collected edition, provided the back matter's in there.
I hope so.
Yeah, so
I hope so.
Yeah, cool. No, I am interested. Absolutely.
Yeah, I read this and I was like, Bill needs to read this as well, just because it's the base concept is something that we love from DC, and we don't usually get to see very often, although we have a form of it
coming up. Yeah, no, we got Joshua Williamson on. See, that was a bit of news we could have mentioned. Joshua
that's right. Next year,
announced for Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, so
but, I won't be satisfied until we get the Hickman, because that will revolutionize the comic industry. But Williamson's solid. And he's enough of a traditionalist that I think would work well with a lot of the criticisms over recent reboots involving that particular franchise. So, yeah.
Joshua Williamson, I'm trying to think. Did he do the Valiant books during the? Yeah, he did. He did a lot of the more recent Valiant books, like Harbinger.
I could have sworn he was a DC exclusive, but he's not.
Well, this is a while ago too. But
no, but I'm saying I think he has a Marvel book coming up, and I think he also has like a Valiant book, a short one,
Tales of Shadow Man or something, probably.
Something like that, yeah.
Cool.
One really cool Williamson book, since we're on Dark Horse right now, his take on Captain Midnight was so cool. I wish there had more prominence as a franchise that people would go to that, because it kind of is like Captain America in a sense, in that he's time displaced. The thing is, for him, he struggled with the morals and how you know, the advanced role of women in our current day and everything like that, but the technology stuff he's completely comfortable with because he's a futurist. So that's a really interesting take on the man at a time. You know, it's like they have to shut him up because he's about to say something, you know, just slightly racist or very sexist. But in the middle of all this, he's having the time of his life because the technology has caught up to his brain. And you know, he grows up a bit as time goes on in the series. But I think people should seek that out because it's good work.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
And it's Dark Horse. I'm so sorry for coughing, guys. You know, I basically ran here, and I haven't caught my breath yet. Getting old fucking sucks. So why don't we go back to John, since he was nice enough to give you this, and he has another Marvel book he would like to talk about. So
well, this one is a gamble, and I still don't know how I feel about it, but we're gonna try right now. So I checked out Doomed 2099. The reason why I scooped this one up was not because of the foil cover. It was not because of all the hype with Doctor Doom. It's because it had 2099 on the cover. I love my 2099. The main reason why I love it is because I am obsessed with X-Men 2099. I love the whole run. Oh, I need to reread it again sometime soon, actually. I freaking adore it. It was just something that my brother actually collected and then passed on to me, and I just remember reading it over and over and over again as a child, you know, and being like, this is awesome. So anything 2099 I get with the hopes of seeing X-Men 2099 characters in the panels. Well, that didn't happen in this book. So that was kind of a downer on the book. The other thing that I will mention here is that as I got into it, I opened up the first couple pages and I'm like, oh no, this is a tie-in with the One World Under Doom event. I'm such an idiot because I have the majority of that event. The main book, I just haven't read it yet. I did read the Thunderbolts. That was that's a whole nother review. But I without having read the main event, I lost a lot of maybe what is currently happening in here, which was kind of a bummer. But the premise of this book is that Doom from 2099 is looking back saying, I need to not be the Sorcerer Supreme. This is going to be a problem. And so he has evidently attempted this several times, confronting present day Doom and never succeeding, which I find really weird. If you're the Doom from the future and you're the same person, you would think that you could overcome that. Maybe, I don't know. Especially with multiple attempts. But there were some fun moments in this book, right? And Marvel's really good at that. So Doom 2099 assembles this random team that has Maestro, the old Hulk villain, Old Man Logan, Cosmic Ghost Rider, the Phoenix, like Rachel Summers, you know, characters like that, going up against present day Doom. And one of the funny moments in that was Old Man Logan asking Maestro Hulk to throw him. like how Wolverine gets thrown all the time. Was it the Cannonball Special or whatever it's called? And so Maestro's like, what? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he ends up doing it anyways. But it's just the disdain of that moment was beautiful. It was great, and probably one of my favorite moments in this issue. Ultimately, present day Doom, of course, being the Sorcerer Supreme, takes everyone to church, including Cosmic Ghost Rider. Cosmic Ghost Rider attempts to do Penance Stare, which is the famous Ghost Rider move that if you have any regrets, those are going to be amplified times like a trillion, and then you're going to, die. And Doom has no regrets. So that didn't work out so hot, and it backfired and got mirrored back to himself. So Cosmic Ghost Rider was out of the fight. Bishop absorbed an energy attack from Doom. Doom redirected Bishop's follow-up blast to take out, two of the team members. So, it's kind of a fun play-by-play to watch how calculated of a character Dr. Doom is. It's definitely true on that note. But I will say that I think that Dr. Doom 2099 kind of got nerfed a little bit for the sake of this issue. I think that Dr. Doom 2099, the original run, I've read about 50% of it or so. I have the majority of it now. I just need to go back and like reread the whole thing. But my understanding of the character is that he actually is a force to be reckoned with. And coming from the future with better tech in theory and an understanding of oneself, you would think that, older, wiser, maybe this would have gone differently. I don't know. And I will say the other neat thing is that there was a nod to several of the 2099 characters, none of which were the X-Men, but that's fine. They had the Hulk in there, the bogus version of the Hulk from 2099, Punisher, Ravage, Spider-Man, of course, was in there. So it was ultimately it was just that fun amount of 2099. This was not the strongest modern offering. I much prefer some of the previous like Carnage 2099 offerings or Spider-Man 2099 offerings. Those were a lot more fun. But it's a fun nod, and I love that Marvel keeps tapping into this little pocket of books. I think that's rewarding as a person that enjoyed X-Men 2099. So
nice.
Well, it's cool. I remember reading a lot of the 2099s back when they first came out. So like Spider-Man, especially Spider-Man. But I did get Doom 2099 #1, probably because I wanted all the foil covers back in the 90s. Because that's what you did. You bought all the foil covers or the die cuts or the, whatever it was that was coming out that week. But it is kind of interesting that they would, in the story kind of make him less powerful than his past self. Now, I get his past self is the Sorcerer Supreme, so maybe there's just that power imbalance, but you would think being the same person that he would know. Okay, I know how to defeat myself.
Yeah.
Unless this is all part of his plan to get Doom, extra confident and then, fall like Doom usually does.
That reminds me, by the way, the one thing that I did want to lift up that was a fascinating moment was at the end of the issue. It wraps up on this really trippy scene where Doom 2099 is like, dude, this is my last attempt. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out. And then reflects on, in his anger, he killed all the humans and all the heroes and villains. So you see this panel of all these Doom bots putting on hero masks, which was just so fascinating and weird that I was like, that's going to stick with me for a while. But yeah, it's interesting because at the end, Dr. Doom 2099 says, I am now the ruler of nothing. And he was hoping to avoid that. So
interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, I haven't really been following much of the One World Under Doom. Like it kind of, it weaves through a lot of the other books that I do read. So Runaways and like X Factor and a couple other things where the tie-in was so tenuous. Like it would usually constitute like somebody was watching the news and there's like a comment about like Sorcerer Supreme Doom gives an edict or whatever, and then they just kind of move on and do something else. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they're going to wrap it up at some point pretty soon because they are planning on rebooting stuff. So I'm sure Doom's going to do something, and it's going to magic something to happen. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I have a great 2099 trivia question for you.
Oh boy.
Okay, if you remember, the first 4 titles were Spider-Man 2099, Doom 2099, Punisher 2099, and Ravage 2099.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the writer of the first 4 issues of Ravage 2099?
Was it John Byrne, was it?
Was it? No.
Ravage.
Stan Lee.
Really?
Yeah.
Surprising. Of course, I didn't like Ravage, so I guess maybe.
Well, let's put it this way. At that point in time, the credited writer for the first 4 issues is Stan Lee.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that issue 1 and I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, oh boy.
Yeah.
It was later in life, I guess. 93? 93?
Yeah. somewhere in that 92 to 94
Yeah.
period.
Hmm.
All right.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, we had James actually came in. Wasn't that Stanley?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
He's right.
There it is.
James knows his shit. There
There we go. Hey James, no prize for you. No prize for you.
Okay, Steve. I'm gonna throw the baton over to you for the next book. I'll wrap up because mine's so weird. I have a lot of lead up to talk about.
I mean, mine's not weird, but mine's also kind of indie. And although it's not as, I guess, it's not as wacky and interesting, it's still really enjoyable. And the author of the book that I'm going to be talking about is Mimi Pond. Mimi Pond, who has a history of writing for TV. She's been a long-time cartoonist. I mean, she wrote for shows like Designing Women and Pee-wee's Playhouse. I mean, back in the day. She also wrote the pilot episode of The Simpsons, or is one of the writers. But she's most known for being a cartoonist, a longtime cartoonist in magazines, New Yorker, 17 magazine, which I thought was kind of fun. I missed that whole run, sorry. But she has, in recent years, started working on her more autobiographical work. And the first book that she wrote, which is the one I'm going to be talking about, is Over Easy. And Over Easy came out in, I believe, 2014. And it was followed up a few years later by The Customer is Always Wrong. And this book, I say that it's autobiographical. It's more semi-autobiographical. She changes a lot, to protect the innocent, I guess. Names have been changed to protect the innocent. But also, I think she gets to, as an author, as the cartoonist, she does get to make some changes where she needs to make changes. But that being said, the main character of Madge pretty much follows her life, like a step behind the entire way. And it focuses on Mimi kind of writing at, or at least this is the, her character of Madge, who could be Mimi. Her life following a 3-year stint at the California College of Arts and Crafts in Oakland, California in the mid to late 70s. So she had 3 years of school. She was loving what she was doing. She was doing printing. She was doing cartooning, all sorts of really great stuff. But the funding ran out. And so her choice then was to get a job or go back home. And of course, she wanted to get a job. And she ends up going to the Imperial Cafe. And the Imperial Cafe here, which is based on her real life, workplace at the time, called, I believe it was Mama's Royal Cafe, is the perfect place for her. It has some just crazy characters, some wonderful stories. She gets herself involved in the personal lives of the people that work there, as well as the customers that they serve. And it's just one big soap opera drama after another. But she approaches it with a lot of humor, with a lot of, I guess, the wisdom of young people, where they see that it's crazy and they know that what decisions they're making are terrible, but they're going to make them anyway because they want the experience. And her, her fascination with this comes out in her artwork. So each character is given a really distinct look. You can really feel these people and who these people are in 1978. I mean, it's just, you have the ex-hippie holder, well, I guess the hippie holdover from the 60s who washed his dishes. You've got the, jaded poet who is one of the line cooks. You've got some sisters that basically have slept their way through the entire customer base and continue to do so. You've got just all sorts of these really great characters. The person who runs and manages the cafe is himself a beat poet, lives with his, overeducated wife and their kids in a rundown part of Oakland. And that brings me to the next major character. Everyone talks, whenever you have like a book or a film that takes place in New York City is one of the characters. Here, Oakland gets that spotlight. And a lot of people like to dismiss Oakland because it's, it's unfortunately San Francisco's, rundown cousin across the bridge. But here, it's 1978. She loves it. She is really bringing out, like, she calls out certain locations that existed at the time, ways of moving through the city. She gets on the bus and she tells you where things are. She gives you a position in space and time by highlighting all these things that, from her experience, existed in Oakland and were a big part of making her who she is. But the way that she presents things, it's, relatively straight cartooning, but there are some fun little tricks that she does in her artwork. So here, there's an image of one of the waitresses assembling fruit garnishes for her orders, and it's just, a little bit crazy and over the top. But she also has some fun playing with the format of her panels, and will sometimes do panels like Post-it notes, or do panels in, odd shapes or odd designs, playing with kind of how you read it. And I always appreciate that when a cartoonist, when an artist presents their work in a unique way that gives the reader sort of motivation to do a little bit extra work in following the story and understanding what's happening and getting a different feel rather than just sort of reading, panel, 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 panel. I really appreciate this here. The humor is wonderful. You understand who these characters are. You cringe when they make stupid mistakes. It's such a fun read. And it does end sort of on an open point so that you can follow it with the next book in the series. And both of them together, this one, Over Easy, and the sequel, The Customer's Always Wrong, kind of give her enough space to tell this story of Madge, also Mimi, and Mimi's history, in a way that gets the reader to really understand who she is as a person, but also who all these other people are and what Oakland was like in the 70s. And I just appreciate that kind of work. I appreciate that kind of autobiographical, creative way of telling one's life story in a way that, yes, there's probably a lot of fictionalized activity here because, again, she's come out and said this is not a strict autobiography. But you can tell she's had these experiences. She's known people like this. She's worked in a place like this, and it's very similar to what somebody in her position with her talent would have been experiencing in 1978 Oakland. So I thought this was great. I can't recommend this enough. Over Easy by Mimi Pond. Drawn and Quarterly just released a new printing of it with a slightly different, there it is, a slightly different cover. And I think that was more to help promote her new book, which is, I believe it's called Do Admit, The Mitford Sisters and Me, which is a biography about the Mitford sisters from the 1920s, and also specifically a bit of autobiography, a bit of memoir for her as well. She compares herself to these sort of famous sisters that were part of high society. So that one is more, I think, more directly autobiographical, sort of mushed together with an actual biography of other famous people. So really interesting stuff. I can't recommend her enough. She's got a great voice. So yeah. And Bill's on mute.
I have to say that I'm actually more familiar. I knew the name, but I'm a bit more familiar with her husband, Wayne White, because of a lot of his illustrations for rock and country oriented projects. I never put the two of them together. It turns out they're married.
Yeah.
But it seemed that her name would be mentioned, but I never caught it was because of the marital connection. I just thought it was because the art styles were similar. Very interesting. Yeah.
Can you bring up that page with the plate in the middle and the panels everywhere?
Let me pull that up real quick.
I'm putting Steve on the spot here.
It just takes a couple
This
clicks.
is good radio. This is good radio. Okay.
First of all, I just wanted to see it again. I am obsessed with this layout, and let me tell you what, like, the most random book or character can really pull me in if there's dynamic work like this, where it's fresh, it's new, it's relevant, and it challenges the reader, and it just takes your mind and pulls it in all sorts of different ways and shapes. Personally, I would love to see like more Doctor Strange volumes like this. Characters that thrive on chaos or enchantment. But I am just obsessed with how she played with the notion of tickets everywhere. Oh man, that's brilliant.
Okay, cool. Now, Steve, you're on mute.
There we go. Thanks. It was a scene that took place right after she had started as a waitress. Because when she started there at the Imperial Cafe, her character is a dishwasher, and so spends several weeks as a dishwasher before she's given the opportunity to be one of the waitresses. And the way that she presents how terrible of a job she did is perfect with the layout of the tickets, and they're all things that she gets wrong, giving somebody their ticket face up, their check face up, getting the wrong order, taking forever trying to figure out the ancient check cash register that only goes up to $9, and so you have to keep hitting it. Just a bunch of really fun moments that continue, and there's lots of sections like that. So I like that kind of creativity for when telling sort of an interesting story, especially one that the person actually had. And speaking of creativity and presentation, Bill, I think we got to talk about your book.
Oh boy. Okay. So this book, I came about it in a very strange way. One of the local shops here has a very, very nice Black Friday sale, and their dollar bins, of which they usually have about like 60 to 80 long boxes out. They're huge. It's a huge sale. We're down to 50 cents. And, a lot of that for me is a lot of fill in the blanks. So I filled in a lot of 80 Strange Tales with Doctor Strange and Cloak and Dagger. I filled in a lot of Gen 13 and DVA and Stormwatch from Wildstorm, a lot of Avengers, a lot of Captain America. But in the midst of all this, I pick up Nocturnal Emissions by Fiona Smythe. Now, this may look very contemporary. This book is 34 years old. It came out in 1991.
Wow.
And I needed to find out, who is this Fiona Smith and why is her work staying with me? It's a very quick read. And as you can see from the cover here that Steve has up, it's not... it's something that wouldn't necessarily be out of place in a comparison with artists like Charles Burns or the Hernandez brothers from Love and Rockets. So I read the stories, I put it down, and the stories, they stayed with me. But they stayed with me for a strange reason, because there really is no story. They're... the links between pages are so tenuous narratively. And I found a contemporary review of the book from 1991, and somebody referred to her work as anti-narrative. And I thought, God, that's right on the money. Steve, if you can put up some of the graphics here that I can take people through. There are two main stories in this book. The first is Toad in the Hole. Toad appears to be somebody that's in high school and is of the stoner variety. And he starts off in class, and gradually the class becomes something more psychedelic, for lack of a better word, or a psychedelic equivalent of 1991. Steve, if you can go over to the next graphic here, and you'll see Toad is going on his journey, accompanied by a very strange guide woman who appears to have like sort of snakes for hair, and wants him to sit in a wicker seat. It really is some out there stuff. Then we get to the second story, which is a little more closer to a narrative you could follow. And this is Gert the Mannequin. Now, Gert appears to have started life as a mannequin, but by the time we see her a little bit later in her existence. She has some features. She's been dolled up a little bit. And she's tired of her life and she decides, fuck the city, I'm going south. And that's all we see here. But her trip going south, she ends up penniless and a convent takes her in. Now, the convent is happy to have her as long as she does some work. And so she, Steve, I may have that page next. No, I don't. If you can just go back to the previous page, because the denouement to the issue is something I have to discuss as well. As she's working at the convent, there's this really sexy guy that comes by, and we're left on a cliffhanger. It's like, will Gert hook up with this sexy guy who, for some reason, is visiting this convent? And then the very last page is disconnected from the two stories, and it's called a Slice o' Life. And this is Fiona's rumination about watching the shuttle explode, the space shuttle explode in early 1986. And she mostly is a painter, at least up to the time that this book came out. And she had made a painting of astronauts that died, and there were 7 body bags in that painting, and there were 7 astronauts that died on the space shuttle. So she's wondering if she kind of, willed or had a place in this, which is kind of strange because, like, it's only 4 panels, but it's a pretty potent story. She also wonders that the way she draws and paints planes are kind of lumpy, and they kind of look like the shuttle. So she's wondering about that. And then the back cover, which is disconnected from all the stories, I'll show you here, is a tribute to Frida Kahlo in her own style. Wow. So I looked up what had happened to our fair Fiona Smythe, and some very good things happened to her. So in the time since then, she's continued to be a leading painter and cartoonist in Canada. She was elected to the Canadian Cartoonist Hall of Fame in 2019. And for most of those 34 years, she's been an instructor at the Ontario College of Art. Now, she does have relevance in contemporary United States society right now, because the book that she provided graphics for, that was written by Corey Silverberg, Sex is a Funny Word, which is basically a young adult exploration about sexuality, is one of the most challenged and banned books since 2017. So there's also a contemporary element to this as well. Now, the book,
I've heard of that book.
Yeah, I have too, because of Ali Velchi's Banned Book Club. I listened to that podcast. I don't think they've profiled it, but they've mentioned it along with other books that are like it. Now, this book was published by Vortex Comics. Vortex has one of the strangest histories that you can imagine. There's still a form of Vortex that's out there right now, and they published very out there stuff. Canadian publisher that started in 1982. Some of their bigger titles were Howard Chaykin's hypersexualized Black Kiss. They also had some of the non-Fantagraphics work of Jaime and Gilbert Hernandez with Mr. X. And apart from that, though, the founder, Bill Marks, is a huge racing fan. So in the midst of all these really avant books, there are very conventional comics about the Daytona 500 and superstars of NASCAR.
Interesting.
So like
range. He got range.
You have to love crazy stories like that. That's cool. I am going to be looking for the other 3 issues. It's a 4-issue miniseries. It does not appear to have been collected. She has other graphic novels that are out there, but I put this down, and yet I didn't put it down. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're finished with something and you're not finished something, and you have to read it a second time. And when I saw that description that her work is anti-narrative, I thought, wow, everything's in place. And she appears to be a really singular talent, and I'm so glad I came across this book. And I know in the past few years I've been, very upfront that I have an aversion to indie comics right now. Aversion probably isn't the best word, but I don't go to them automatically. Since the pandemic, I wanted stories, of universes smashing together and everything that could be as far from slice of life as you could get. And even me, every so often, I have to wet the non-superhero whistle here, and this really did. And I just love discovering a new old talent. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. I'm just her art to me. There's like a taste of Linda Barry somewhere in there. You can see kind
Julie
of
Doucet to throw a fine art element out there.
And even Crumb. There's a little bit of Crumb, like just the line work, the fine line work that seems to
and a lot of the punk artists from the very early 80s, that would participate with punk groups, like Charles Burns is just really comes at you, not necessarily the backgrounds, but the way that characters are composed for people that don't have the visual benefit here, that just going on our audio descriptions. But I love discovering somebody I didn't know about. I absolutely love that. And especially because it came up in such a haphazard way, and was probably sandwiched between an issue of friggin' Barbie fashion and like some other stupid book in these bins.
Like an old Strike Force Moratorium.
Something stupid. I actually do like the beginning of Strike Force Moratorium. Let me amend that.
It came to mind because that's how when I was a kid, and I would frequently do the 4 for $1 box. That was like that was like kid in a candy store when it came to the 4 for $1 box, because my store at the time when I was a kid, Starship Excalibur of Lincoln, Rhode Island, they would put the weirdest shit in that 4 for $1 box. I got all of my issues of Nexus from there. 12-year-old kid just pulling out Nexus. Got there was some early Cerberus that was thrown in there, just random single issues. And then you would have NFL Super Pro, like the book that I paid full price for just 6 to 12 months earlier, now being like, quartered out. But I mean, you would get some really crazy random stuff that would be probably the only way that you would run into it, because you wouldn't see it on the main shelf.
Yeah, and I was just so happy to come across something like this, and just that feeling of like I said before, with something you put down, but your experience with it isn't over. That's right. Kind of rare. Even like books you love, sometimes it's like, okay, I've closed this, I'm on to the next one. This lingered. And to me, that talks about talent. That's an indication of a singular talent. So
that's cool. Yeah. Thank
you. So I'm going to be looking for these issues of Nocturnal Emissions 1, 2 through 3. I'm seeing some online for like $10. I'm seeing some online for like $37. But I'm a hunter when it comes to this stuff, so you will see me looking for stuff along with trying to get our boy Steve the Pushing Daisies promo comic. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do over the next few bin diving months.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to our next segment of the Comic Book Bears towards the denouement before the wrap up of our episode. And our first step on that journey of those last 2 stops on our train ride is where we talk about our Geek Gets, things that we picked up in the last 14 days or so that, kind of align with genre. And John, if you have something you might want to show that you got over the last 14 days, we'll let you go a little bit longer because you're not a regular. So just show us something cool that you recently got.
So, we touched on manga earlier. So recently, Ken and I went to Japan, and I fell in crazy love or re-love with Dragon Quest. I love my little slime guys. And so I have never read manga before. And this is terrible because I lived in Japan for 5 years, but I was like, a little bit younger, whatever. So there's a Dragon Quest manga that's amazing. These are like English translated compendiums. So this is volume 3. Each one's just under 400 pages long. Mainly black and white. There's dabs of color in there though too, which is kind of fun to see. Reading it from back to front, right to left, the works, and so it's just totally fun. It's a fun transition away from Western style comics, and it just really taps into the lore and tells the story of the character Dai in this one. There's 5 issues or 5 compendiums or whatever you want to call these in total. I suspect that these were smaller publications in Japan that they just grouped together in these large books. So I'm really excited to complete this. And there's actually a new one out as well that I have book. Oh my gosh, my office is a war zone. This is one that book 2 of this is coming out in March, I want to say, is what Amazon said. So that's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to completing the first set of 5 and then getting into this. And on top of that, just on the going to Japan note, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't shown these off yet either. This is an exclusive for your show. I was naughty and spent a little bit of money in Japan. And so I mentioned that I happen to love Dark Avengers. And so I picked up Dark Avengers in Japan, and it is legit all in Japanese on the inside. And it just makes me so happy. And I was just like, this is like my favorite book ever. So I have this one. This is like volume 2, like issue 6 or 10 or whatever. And then there's the Siege event, Dark Avengers tie-in, also in Japanese. And then this one just rocks my face. So it is an honor to own this in Japanese. Utopia, this event was so much fun because this premiered the Dark X-Men and had the Dark Avengers and the Dark X-Men square off against the Island of X-Men in this Uber battle. And it was just so much fun to see dark justice being brought to our country, which sadly is kind of fitting right now, but that's a whole other thing. But at the time, this was a true delight, and just to see Dark Reign at its finest, Utopia is probably my favorite thing. So when I saw that on the shelf, I geeked out, scooped it up, and all rockets forward. What I don't have up here that I'll talk about on Comics by Night, when I get to filming, is I actually did find a Blade, a Morbius, a Moon Knight, also in Japanese. And that was incredible, just seeing some of those subtle characters. And I was just like, yep, mom arm all that. So that was a lot of fun. I also got manga completely in Japanese because one of the things I got I'm actually doing like Duolingo right now, so I'm dipping my foot in the pool. But people have said, just throw yourself in, force yourself to learn the words word by word, character by character, and you'll get it. And so playing matching games on Duolingo, it's fun and all, but actually hitting the books and reading is intriguing to me. So I picked up a couple of things. My haul's nothing compared to what Ken got. He's talked about it on his channel. He got like 32 Stephen King books in Japanese over there. He's crazy. But I can try to compete. So those are my Geek Gets.
All right, very nice.
Those are all good. Yeah, and actually I can second that whole the idea of just throwing yourself into the book or into manga in Japanese. It's one of the best ways to learn because you can you're excited to read what's happening. It's a dynamic kind of image, and it's not like it's not like a prescribed lesson. Like you can actually find some cool stuff and be able to understand the action, what's going on. At the same time, you're like, what word is that?
yeah So I'm excited. I got a lot of reading in my future, but I've been so I'm actually really naughty at work. I have an office now, so I got a electric reclining chair. So I just close my door at lunch and I just put my feet up and I read. Like it's chef's kiss. Oh yeah. So it's the best moment. So yeah.
We have a quick note here from James. Dark Horse is publishing a deluxe version of Lone Wolf and Cub right now. It's expensive, but you couldn't ask for a better title to start reading manga. Yeah, I mean, I know Caleb's talked about it on the show before, Lone Wolf and Cub. It's cool that Dark Horse is
the
coming
original First. I think First was the publisher. I have the original
Yeah,
like 16 issues or so.
which is cool. And I
Yeah.
know that they put them out in sort of like manga like, well, in manga, format
From
with
what I
the thicker
understand,
books.
one criticism of it was, because again in the U.S. it's the left to right, and
Hmm.
it's a different dynamic. People say for some reason it really has a very different feel.
Hmm.
Taking the story, like I've read like of all the classic manga, that's the one to read in in the Japanese style
Yeah.
back to front. So
Although that is kind of cool that for the American comics, they have you reading left to right, even in Japanese. That's got to be a trip.
yeah,
I mean, I guess it makes sense to do
yeah.
that.
I did
Cool.
fall for that trap on the very first page of book 1, where I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. I'm like, idiot, read the other way, because the words weren't matching up with the punctuation or whatever. I also just wanted to thank James for that recommendation. I take recommendations very seriously because I love shopping at Barnes and Noble, or wherever I can scoop up new manga. So I actually jotted it down just for the record.
Do
So
you
I
want
am,
us to provide some recommendations to you right now?
yes.
Like I'm an old guy and I like classic manga, and one that I really like is Kikaida,
Okay.
which is uh, aligns with Takahatsu show, a kaiju show
Mm,
called Android Kikaida,
mm.
and it was published a few years ago by DC's CMX print. I think there's 9 volumes. If you can find it, it's something I really liked, and I think you would,
Okay.
because it's the comic bookiness and also the difference from Western comic bookiness that it also maintains through the story.
Mm.
I think is interesting, and just also going with an older one, which I think is much more easy to find, Cyborg 009.
Okay.
I would.
Yeah.
And this is for
So
old. And then for the go ahead. Then there's another new one I want to.
Well, I've got a new one, and I think I've talked about it on the show before. But Frieren Beyond Journey's End is just a masterpiece of fantasy storytelling that plays with your emotions. It's alternately, goofy and fun, but also very, very serious, and
Okay.
deals with the idea of loss and grief and the passing of time, really. And but also, it's also a fun fantasy journey quest kind of book with some really cool characters. So Frieren is how they have it spelled in English. Well,
Okay.
in Roman characters, but yeah, it's definitely a good one. It's got, I think, like 14 volumes right now. It's still going. It's still an ongoing series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm blanking on the name of the series, but there's a series where an old pensioner gets superpowers. And I've talked about this. I want to say Inuyasha, but that's not the name of it. I can't.
No.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up and get to you. But that's a more recent manga. They take some really dark turns with some of the other characters.
Inuyashiki.
Inuyashiki. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Yeah. Not Inuyasha.
How do you spell that?
Inu, Inu, so Yashiki.
Yeah.
Inuyasha.
And even if you're watching this later, listening to this later, just send us, either through Gmail or comments, what you think like, and we'll pass them on to John. Very happy.
Yeah, and James, not Inuyasha. That's very different from Inuyashiki.
I have the Machagogo, the speed racer.
That's cool.
Right here, and a beautiful volume. It's okay.
That's cool though.
It's okay.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
All right, well, Steve, it's your turn. Show us your Geek Gets.
Well, some people go all the way to Japan for their Geek Gets. I go all the way down the road to McDonald's to get mine, because the new promotion that they're running right now in the US is the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. And they did this before a few years ago. for the anniversary of Disney World, where they have figures of a lot of famous Disney characters, Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars. And so I picked up a couple the other day, and they're very cute and very cartoony and stylized. So it took me a split second to figure out, oh, it's the Beast. This one I had to stare at a little bit. It is Black Widow.
That's awesome.
Black Widow in her white costume.
Yes.
Black Widow. I was like, who is this chick in her PJs? And she's doing the Black Widow pose. And it's her in her white outfit from her film. So yeah, those were the two that I found. I also across the country right now, AMC theaters, they had tons of they get tons of like stuff all year long. And this is the time of year that they clearance all that shit out. And by clearance, I mean pennies. So I got a couple lanyards. So Bill, I am stocked up on lanyards I'll be using next year at cons. So I don't have to borrow from anybody or try and steal them when we go. But
which we have done.
Yeah. But they also had keychains from Captain America.
Oh.
So I've got a Captain America keychain, and I've got a Red Hulk keychain that are really cute. And yeah. But anyway, I also picked up some other junk that's unrelated. But yeah, so check out your local AMC.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because they had a lot of cool stuff this year.
Does not include the popcorn buckets.
Okay. But they still had a lot of cool stuff. I also hit McDonald's, and my gets were really sucky. I got sadness, and I got a very drunk-looking Olaf. And it just, I don't know, Steve, if you have your box, but like I can at least like show the box that the various figures, and there's you got to be really dedicated to this if you're going to collect the line, because this is a lot of figures.
Well, the cool thing, they come two to a box, but there's 70 figures. You need to buy 35 sets. And that's, of course, they're all random, so you might get lots of doubles, and that's too much for me. So,
all right. So on to my Geek Gets. I think Steve was with me live when I found out about this book, and then B purchased it. It was that quick. At San Diego Comic-Con, there was an Aquaman Air Jaws Allies book that came out, promotional comic. In relation to Discovery's Shark Week, and I found out about this, and I had to have it, and I got it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, seconds. I didn't even think. It was a decent price, not like that goddamn crypto book that came out with Milkbone. I'm still looking for that. But there we go. And then over past Black Friday, something that's been a staple for I think the last like 10 years or so has been record store days.
Mm-hmm.
Black Friday event. So I got a few things. I got the Talking Heads Tentative Decisions Demos and Early Live album. I got the Ramones Live at CBGB's album on vinyl. And yes, I got something that is connected with comic books. I got this beautiful picture disc of the Watchmen soundtrack.
Wow.
So really nice. Really, there's a back with a shot that I've never seen before of just their faces. I've never seen that image before. So, yeah. So, comic.
Yeah, the Watchmen soundtrack. I mean, it.
Yeah.
Snyder may not be like a James Gunn when it comes to perfect music selections, but I want to say that Watchmen is probably an exception to that rule, because I thought that the soundtrack, the selections for the film were perfecto. So, especially the opening scene, going through like the history of the different supers that were being, the scandals, the murders, all of that stuff. Okay. So good.
All right. Well, we're on our last train stop toward the end of the show. And at this junction, this is where we talk about our Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fellow attractive, you woof at him. A lot of that going on Santa Saturday, I'll tell you. And we do something very similar where we woof at something which may be comic book related. It might be a TV program, though, or a film or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, I've already mentioned one thing before. So Pluribus by Vince Gilligan on Apple TV Plus.
I watched the first episode of that.
Watch the shit out of it.
The first episode of that. I liked it.
It's great. It is up to, I think, by this recording, I think episode 6 or 7. But shout out to all of the YouTubers with the 50 billion channels trying to figure out what's going on in this. Like every episode, there's like another 50 that get recommended to me on my FYP. So, but that's not my woof this time. My woof is for a British series on BBC called Gifted. And it harkens back to when I was a kid. There was a show that came up on Nickelodeon that was a remake of an old British show. I think it was an Australian-American remake called The Tomorrow People. And I know that's a favorite for some of us.
Love The Tomorrow.
Gifted is not The Tomorrow People, but it is geared towards young viewers. So it takes place in like a junior high to high school private school in Edinburgh, and concerns kids that have superpowers. It's just a big mix of different kids, lots of cool storylines. There's a big overarching kind of situation that's happening with a character who's possibly immortal, who's a shapeshifter that's kind of got some evil, questionable motives. Really cool stuff. Brand new cast. There are some recognizable British actors in there if you watch a lot of UK TV, but I'd say the cast of the kids do an amazing job because, of course, something like this, you actually have a budget, so they can do some cool stuff with the power effects. And they've got a good set of writers. The only downside I have to say is that it is absolutely edited for Gen Alpha viewers, in that no scene is more than like 20 seconds long, and it cuts because they got to keep kids in interest while they've got their iPads in front of them. So, but it is fun. If you sit through it, it's definitely worth it. Even for an older viewer, for me, it gave me nostalgia. But it is 10 episodes right now, the first season, and it is out on BBC. So you should be able to view it where you can view BBC stuff.
Over to John. John, what is your woof of the week?
Woo! Well, I actually sent this to you guys directly, and I don't know how much of this I can show on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, but when you make a comic book and you work with a special fellow from Northern Ireland, what you really want to do is ship that cover he did over to Northern Ireland to do a remark and an autograph and personalization on it. So this is the Glenn Quigley variant cover of Cosmotrope #1, and he added all of the radiant gloriousness around this bear outline and wrote me a nice little note on there. I love Glenn. I'm gonna just do this and celebrate this sketch cover that he did.
Wow.
We'll
That's enough. That's enough.
Yeah. We'll stop maybe there. But it's a beautiful sketch cover that Glenn did for me. Glenn is incredibly talented, and I just caught on his socials that he's doing like smaller pieces that are like unique gifts for people. So he did like a really neat Santa Claus. And if you're looking for fun reads, he also does lots of novels. And so this is Heart of the Wren from the Haunted Heart series that I need to crack into here. And he is an amazing human. And so I just wanted to lift him up as my woof of the week because he is a gem. He was a pleasure to work with on this comic book. It blew my mind getting to work with him in this capacity.
Oh, that is so cool. And John, thank you so much for sending those along to us as well.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate that.
I'm glad you guys like it.
All very we were all so happy for these packages. Yeah.
There was, as Bill calls it, lots of happy clappy.
Happy clappy.
Yes.
Happy clappy.
And I would love to meet Glenn at some point. I would absolutely love to meet Glenn. I just want to throw something out to you. This was an artist that we profiled on Woofs of the Week a couple weeks ago. I think you may really like his work. And this is the book that he wrote, The Pale.
Oh, cool.
At Camp Wickerstick, again, since you're such a hard dude. and his name is Jeremiah Stiles, and his art handle is what is it? Oakenthorn.
Oakenthorn. Yeah.
Oakenthorn.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look him, and he's and he has a very deep voice. Let's put it that way in his videos that you will never forget. So
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I can check
you
him
will
out.
enjoy
That's
it.
awesome.
But yeah, should have let John know about this since he it's basically sometimes you sit around a campfire as a kid at summer camp and tell ghost stories,
Mm.
and then it turns out some of them are true.
Okay. Okay.
I think you'll really like this.
Yeah.
Should have let John know about this. God damn it.
Ah.
All right. So for my woofs of the week, I want to send out two. One is very quick. Really enjoyed the first tranche of episodes that came out from Stranger Things season 5. Very happy to get that. And this one, I have to say, I was so far behind on this. It was really remiss of me to not jump on this when this happened late last year. One of my favorite podcasts is You Must Remember This from Karina Longworth, film historian, and the last season, not the last season, but last season, you know what I mean. It's not the end, but was the most recent. Was season 20, which was based on stories about directors in the latter part of their careers that they began in the classic Hollywood period and went right towards the end. It's called The Old Man Is Still Alive, and there are episodes that discuss the late careers of directors like Alfred Hitchcock, John Ford, Howard Hawks, John Huston, Stanley Donen, Vincent Minnelli, sorry. I had no idea Frank Capra was such a raging anti-Semite. You learn a lot of things you didn't know with these deep dives. Interesting, she didn't include Orson Welles in this, and her rationale behind that was because Orson didn't wait till he was later in his age for the weirdness to set in. I love that description of why he was why he was absent, but really interesting stories, and just a collection of films I'm dying to watch now. I may have heard about them in filmographies, and just registered as a later film by a notable filmmaker, and 10 to 1 it's not necessarily their best work, but the reasons why it might not be their best work is sometimes more fascinating than the films themselves. So that's my woof of the week, season 20 of You Must Remember This, The Old Man Is Still Alive.
I love that title too. The Old Man Is Still Alive. Like, you can just hear the disdain and the shock and surprise.
Yeah. And when you find out where that comes from, you'll enjoy it even more.
Oh,
I mean, I know you will be listening at some point, Steve.
Yeah, it's downloaded. It's in my playlist, and somewhere in there are 170 episodes of stuff.
Yeah. And also another thing that she does with this is she flashbacks to earlier episodes in the feed. So if there are actresses or other creators that she had episodes on about, say, Gene Seberg or Grace Kelly, or the really weird duo films of Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford, those are in the feed for the season as well. You don't have to go farther back and explore this. No hunting. It's all provided for you. So.
And I did like her, speaking of that Jane Seberg, that it's such a great episode. And it was timely when it came out because Kristen Stewart happened to do a biopic of her just a few months later, or that came out a few months later. So it was like, oh, this is perfect timing for the Seberg film that came out afterwards. You're like, who is this woman? Oh, that's who she was. And what a terrible way to die. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's also interesting in this one of the episodes is they talk about a movie that was being remade, and because of when they remade it, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, you needed a character who kind of sympathized with Nazis, which It's very. It just sounds impossible to pull off, especially in 1962. In the current day, that's a topical question,
easy.
and it's really interesting. And again, we talked about banned books in this episode and the cyclical nature of certain things in society, and it covers that as well. Some really interesting stuff. I'm
Cool.
kicking myself that I waited a year to listen to this. Kicking myself. I don't know why. So. All right. So, John, if people want to reach out to you or watch you or listen to you, where do they go?
So on the Facebooks, definitely just look up A Comic Book Look or Comics by Night. Comics by Night, I'm going to be trying to hopefully revive. I keep saying this, like I feel like I said this last time I was on your show, but I'm almost done. My new room downstairs is lovely, and I just got a subscription to Riverside as well. And so I'll be trying out this little cool tool that you guys have, and hopefully try to have that Comic Book Bear standard, but slightly less because I'm not you guys. But I can be the Robin to your Batman. It's cool. So Comics by Night is probably the best way to find me. Feel free to send me a note, YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, whatever works best.
Okay, cool. And I gotta say, John, the hair like you have it now, and the slight gray in the beard, it's kicking.
Trying to keep up with you guys. So.
Yeah, let's just throw a Gur out for that, baby.
Yeah,
thank you.
Gur, maybe a Woof too, like so Gur.
Yeah,
and
maybe a Woof. Even a Roar. Ooh, the rare Roar.
We made a blush. Yay!
You don't get this with the Straight Comic Book Podcast, folks. You just don't. You just
Thank
don't.
You guys.
Okay, great. And again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the social medias as Comic Book Bears, save for Facebook, where we are Comic Book Bears podcast. If you want to listen to us, please do so through Apple Podcasts, through Spotify, and many of the other podcatching platforms. If you are enjoying an episode, please, please, please say that you are enjoying an episode on Apple Podcasts in particular, because their particular algorithm and setup really benefit shows if they do have positive feedback. So keep doing that. If you joined us through Facebook Live, thank you. If you joined us through some of the other live functions that are too numerous to name right now, thank you. If you're watching us later, though, on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe and do the same thing again. Positive word affects us positively as well. And if you want to write to us for some reason, sorry, I just hit the laptop here. You can do so by sending an email. That wasn't intentional. It was only, it was just me and my stupid aunt. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
And I'm Steve Morey.
We'll be joined again by Caleb on our next episode. And if you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back again in 2 weeks for our final episode of 2025, because Christmas is crazy. So
Christmas is crazy.
It's crazy. I can't even get through how crazy it is. It's so crazy. Actually, my Christmas is not crazy because my baby's been gone for 4 months. So we are just home. Nothing going on, just relaxing. We'll visit relatives later, but
we got to figure out what movie we're seeing on Christmas Day, because that's what
I have to say. We try to do that, institute that, but he's still gun shy about going to theaters. A little bit. I've gotten him. I mean, he went to see Superman 3 of the 4 times I saw it with me. Love that,
Yeah.
But we tried to do Christmas Eve movies, and so we thought Cats was going to be the start of that custom. And of course, Rob goes Night of the Holy Birth, and we're seeing Cats.
That's slice of hell.
We will probably go see a movie. I want to see some revival films. Because we have them at Princeton Garden Theater, and there's also a series in Trenton, which isn't like Warzone Trenton to get to. So, I don't know. I love seeing old films in theaters, and I think we may have a chance to. Which isn't just like, it's not just It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, there's some others that they have in rotation, so might do that. All right. Until then,
Good.
Woof and an
Woof.
explosion. Bye bye.
Boom.